Am I live yet? Can somebody just let me know if they can see me? Anyone in the comments just say, yes, we can see you. We can hear you. Okay, so you can see me. Can you hear me? Yes, yes. Okay, cool. Hi, so welcome to our first live session together. I'm super excited to be doing this session with you. Wow, the chat is going crazy right now. Okay, so I'm gonna try and see if I can answer questions as they pop up, and I also have somebody that is helping to moderate the chat. Okay, so yeah, welcome to our first session. I'm going to be recording this, and then I'll post it to Vula probably this evening. I have to upload it once I've downloaded this. Okay, so yeah, I think most of you know me. I look familiar to you. You've seen me in the videos on Vula. My name is Megan. I'm the course convener for 1006F. So the purpose of this session is just a weekly Q&A to see where we're at and where you can kind of just engage with me and ask me questions on anything you might be struggling with. Okay, so is this ECO 1010F? No, it's ACC1006F, financial accounting. Yeah. So, okay, I've got about 7 things that I need to cover in the session. So the first thing to start with is the textbook. So this is what the textbook looks like. I don't know if you can see that. So an important thing about this textbook is that you'll see it says the revised 5th edition. Okay, so on the library's website, there are actually links to licenses, and those links are actually to the 5th edition of the textbook. Now, the reason why this textbook has been revised is because in 2018, there was an update to the conceptual framework in the International Financial Reporting Standards, and that change was actually quite significant. So the chapter that deals with the conceptual framework has been updated in the new textbook, okay? So if you're using the 5th edition, then please make sure that you that when we do the conceptual framework, which is weeks 4 and 5, I think, that you try and get access to it through a friend, or I'm not sure how else. This is the 5th edition revised. Okay. Then also about the textbook, just to let you know, you cannot upload copies of the textbook onto the forum, so please don't do that because there are copyright issues. We're not allowed to distribute the textbook. That's why we have specific licenses with the library, and we can get into a lot of trouble for doing that, so please don't do that, please. Okay, so that's all for the textbook. I'm just looking to see if there's questions on that. No, I think I've addressed it. Okay, the next thing is the knowledge checks. So the knowledge checks, you will have seen, we kind of do them at the end of a lesson. Now each week, where can you buy the book? You can buy it from UCT store or Vanschkat bookstore. Okay. Okay, sorry, back to the knowledge checks. So the knowledge checks are there to make sure that you have that you've understood the content that was covered in a particular lesson. Now, you have to score 80% for these knowledge checks in order to move on to the next module. Now, from next week, we will start putting on an estimated time it will take you to work through all the content so that you can just plan your time better for the week, because I know that there were students that were querying how long it takes them to work, how long it will take them to cover everything. Also, this week you had 8 lessons in your week 1 module, but it's not always 8 lessons. Sometimes it could be 5 lessons, sometimes 4. It just depends on how we decide to break up the content. So it's not always going to be 8, but we'll try and make that a lot more clearer on the landing page for the week. I'm just going to check the questions again. Okay, to access the textbook online, I did send that link. I posted a link and I did check that it is working. If you're not able to access that link, then you need to probably contact the library. So on the UCT library website, there should be a contact us where you contact the librarian, because there may be something that needs to be resolved on your side. But I checked it and the link is definitely working. I put in hold, but no email response. Okay, so in terms of emails, currently my inbox is sitting with 106 emails. There's a lot of students that have issues getting onto the Vula site or just registration. So please do be patient. I do try to respond to emails as soon as possible. If you need a quicker response, the forums would be the best place to go to, because there's more than one person that responds in the forum. So they may be able to get an answer to you much quicker. And also, your question may actually have been asked already. So please make sure that you check the forums. Okay, questions. What's the name of the textbook? It's Financial Accounting and Introduction. It is on the welcome page. Okay, question. Okay, what's the most number of lessons in 1 week? So I can't tell you now what the most number of lessons is, because the content for the rest of the course is still being developed as we go along. So we're actually developing the content on a weekly basis. So it really just depends. I think the most I've seen actually has been around 8 lessons. But yeah, I'm not gonna say it's definitely no more than 8. The thing is that we do aim that in total your workload for the week should be around 40 hours for the week. But that's across all your courses, not just across accounting. Okay, how much is the textbook? I'm not sure. Can't answer that. You'd need to call the bookstores, because they do also have, they may have different prices at the different bookstores. So you'd need to contact them. Can someone send a link for the WhatsApp group? I don't know what WhatsApp group is going on, but yeah. I suppose, I think there was a message in the forums about that, so just check that. Then someone saying the book is 688 or 788 at the UCT bookstore. Okay, are the weekly the DP requirements? Yes, they are part of the DP requirements. So you need complete at least 75% of the weekly quizzes. Of course, we encourage you to complete all of the weekly quizzes, especially given the fact that you have such a nice extended period over which to do it. So it gets released on the Friday, and then by the Wednesday, the following Wednesday, you only have to submit it. Now, I would then encourage everybody to do that. And the nice thing about the quizzes is that if you do the student evaluations, which come later on, then we actually we reduce the number of quizzes that we take into account for your grade, which means that your average actually is higher. So to make sure to do the student evaluations when it comes along. Wait, questions are going insane. Is there an accounting timetable? I'm not sure what that is referring to. Maybe if you can just clear up what you mean there, and then I can answer that. So there are no live lessons. Okay. Yeah, so there are no live lessons. These sessions that I'm having every week on a Thursday, it's basically just to answer questions and to just discuss some stuff that I think might be relevant to you. And it's to give you updates, because I find that, especially in this online environment, there's so much information that needs to go out, and you don't always want to read a whole lot of emails. And so sometimes it's just nicer to have a discussion, because typically these things would have been said in a lecture in any case. Okay. How do we gain unlimited access to the textbook? You can't gain unlimited access, because there's only a certain number of licenses that we have for the day. So every time you want to use the textbook, you would need to then plan around that. Okay. The weekly quizzes count on the final mark. Yes, they do. Can I post the accounting syllabus for the year? The syllabus has already been posted. It's in the lecture outline. You can see what it is that we're covering. Then There's a long queue for the book. So it says that there's a long queue for the book, and I'm scared of falling behind with prescribed reading. Do you recommend we buy it? My recommendation is buy the textbook, because it means that you don't get caught in these online queues to access the online version. Also, you'll have the most recent version of the textbook, which is the revised edition. And it just means that you can be more flexible in terms of when you're doing your study. So it's definitely worthwhile, I think, to go and buy the book. And for those that are moving on to Financial Reporting 1 in the second semester, it's the same textbook that you would use. So you're not just buying the textbook for this course, it's also for the second semester. What are the Friday afternoon sessions? It's actually moved to the Thursday. So it's happening now, and it's for the updates and so forth. Are they compulsory? We're not monitoring attendance, but I strongly urge you to attend these sessions, or at least make sure that you do view the recording, because there are stuff that I'm going to address in here that you may miss, and then you just don't know what's going on. So definitely try to attend. If you can't attend, make sure that you do watch the recording that I will post to Vula afterwards. Okay. Is this course for priors and non-priors? Now, this course is designed for both priors and non-priors. So let me just give you a bit of context. Previously, when we had face-to-face lectures, we typically would have split the class between prior students and non-prior students. Now, the difference in the prior versus non-prior lectures would be how we address the content. So prior students already have a foundation of knowledge. So, for example, if we talk about certain terms, like we say depreciation, prior students already know what that means, or we say adjustment, they know what that means. Whereas with non-prior students, they don't actually know that. So in the lectures, the pace of the tests that are written, the exam, the tutorials, everything is exactly the same. It's just how the lectures are conducted. Now, the way that we've structured the course online is that all of the material is designed for all of the students. However, I'm going to be posting additional resources. So if you feel that you're working through the weekly lessons and you need a bit of extra help because there's stuff that you don't understand, I'm creating a tab on Vula. I'm going to release it probably by tomorrow for the latest. It's going to be called Extra Resources. So in this Extra Resources, I'm going to post links to lecture videos by another colleague of mine, where she kind of goes through all the content for the week, but just in a different format. And that may help you solidify some of the concepts that you're struggling with if you were struggling to get through the lessons and you already went through the Q&A and you just need a bit extra. So those extra resources are exactly that. They are extra resources, okay? You're not required to watch any of those videos. It's just there in case you feel you need those resources. I'm also going to be posting additional readings in there, but those readings, again, it's not required at all. It's just interesting readings maybe that I found online about what's happening in the world right now, especially the financial world. And normally I just keep up to date with finance news and stuff, and then I'll post articles that I think is interesting. And if you want to read it for enrichment purposes, you're more than welcome to do so, but there's no requirement that you must read it. So tomorrow, look out for Extra Resources, that tab that's going to be on Vula. It's going to have additional material released for every week. Then, and again, a disclaimer, you don't have to go through that. If you're a prior student and you were really good at accounting, you probably don't need that additional material. Okay, is the weekly quiz the same as the knowledge check? No. A knowledge check is a little quiz to make sure that you actually understood what was posted in the lesson that you just did. So the video you watch, the knowledge check is based on that. The weekly quiz is released on a Friday, and it kind of is a quiz that assesses all of the lessons you would have done. So, and the weekly quizzes counting towards your final grade. Let's see, my friend, wait. Oh, sorry, let me just get through. Okay, my friend has access to 7 lessons from this week. I can only access 3. Is that normal? So if you've done the knowledge check and you've gotten 80%, then lesson 4 will open up. So the next lesson only opens up for you once you've gotten the required percentage that you need for the knowledge check. If you don't pass the knowledge check, then the next lesson doesn't open up until you actually pass it. So you need to make sure that you actually get the correct percentage. You can retake the knowledge check. So if you, for example, let's say you get 40% for the knowledge check, you can retake it, and then as soon as you get the required percentage, you will then be allowed to view the rest. Will the quizzes have a time limit when they are started? Yes, the weekly quizzes have a time limit. Knowledge checks don't have a time limit. What is a student evaluation? A student evaluation is when you fill in an online form, basically just evaluating the course. So you're giving feedback to us about how you offer. So let's say there are things you think we can improve on, then you are more than welcome to put that in the student evaluation. We typically have one during the semester, and we have one at the end of the semester. And that interim feedback that happens during the semester, I take that feedback and I try and incorporate some of the things, the points that are coming out in there, okay? The idea is just that we want to make the experience of the course as best as possible for you. Although, if you have suggestions on things you think ideas that maybe we could be doing better on, you can email me directly. I really would appreciate your feedback. Yeah. So that's that. Okay. Will a quiz be released this Friday? Yes, tomorrow morning at 10 you'll have your first quiz. Do we pay for counseling services? No. So all the counseling services, I don't think you pay for it. But let me check up on that. Okay, so counseling services. Yeah, I don't think it's paid for, but I think if they refer you, for example, to a specialist, then there may be costs and stuff involved. But yeah, I'll find out that information, confirm it, and post it in an announcement. Do we ever have classes in person? No, we don't. Unfortunately, for the first semester, we're not going to have classes in person. The only time we will have something in person is for test 1, which is the 28th of April, and then for the exam, but that's depending on the lockdown restrictions. So if we go, let's say, maybe back to a level 4 or 5 later on in the year, and then we may not have a face-to-face exam or possibly even a test. Yeah, I'm really sad about that because I really enjoy face-to-face lectures, and it's so weird for me sitting here talking to a webcam where I would prefer talking to you and seeing who all of you actually are. But yeah, I'm really sad that we don't get to have face-to-face lectures, but maybe in the second semester things change. Okay, let's see. What society should we join in order to improve and use our understanding of this course? So I don't think there's a specific society that you need to join to improve your understanding of this course. Perhaps joining the InvestSoc, like you could join that. I mean, they have like a general like business focus that could be a society. I'm not sure of anything else. I think the best way to improve your understanding of this course would be to just engage with the resources available to you. So if you're interested in things like this, maybe make sure that you go through those readings that I'm going to start posting. Open up a set of financial statements. So go onto a website, think of a company you like, a company that you know of, you maybe use every day. go onto their website, open their financial statements, just have a look at what it looks like. Okay. And yeah, I think once you start engaging in accounting, then it's gonna, your understanding of the course is gonna improve. Yeah, but as long as you're doing the work we're telling you to do, you should be fine. Do we study from the textbook and the videos? Yes. So the textbook is meant to supplement what is being done in the videos and yeah, so forth. I have one lesson, which is the first one, and the others have transcripts. Okay, so if you are not able to view the lessons, then you need to so when I say not view the lessons, as in you've opened the lessons page, it's there, but the video doesn't load, then that is something you need to contact the Vula help desk for. So that's help@vula.uct.ac.za. Okay, because there could be a technical issue with your Vula. However, if a lessons page, if you can't see it because you haven't gotten the required marks for the knowledge check, then that's a different thing. Then it just means you need to redo the knowledge check until you get it right. Okay. Is it okay to do the 1106F if you want to do chartered accounting? Okay, so if you want to become a chartered accountant, yes, you can do ACC1006F. So that course and this course is actually, we write the same test, the same exams. The difference is that 1106F is the EDU course. So if you're in the EDU stream, then you would be doing that course. But if you're in the mainstream, then you're doing this course. But we're writing the same assessments, same weekly quizzes, everything. It's just that your lectures are going to be by different lecturers. Okay. You said we must do 40 hours a week. Does this include this week? No, so when I say 40 hours, I mean like 40 hours for all the courses that you're doing. Okay, so you're not going to spend 40 hours just in accounting. That's too much accounting. No, so if you look at all, I think you have about 5 courses. And so if you look at all of those courses, it should come to about 40 hours a week. So with being a student, you kind of, the time you spend being a student is much like what you would spend if you had a job, you know, like if you were working full time. So this is like your full-time job. Okay. The only thing is you're not being paid to be a student, but the payment comes later on. Okay. So it's like deferred payment. One day in the future, you're going to be paid. You're going to be paid well because you're studying commerce. Okay. As for the week, okay, as for this week, it's a prerequisite to complete 75% of the quizzes. No, so it's 75% of the quizzes overall, right? So there are 13 weeks in the semester, but there are only going to be 12 quizzes. So of the 12 quizzes that you have in this whole semester, you need to complete 75% of that. Okay, that's what the 75% relates to. The 75% has nothing to do with knowledge checks, right? Knowledge checks are just there to open up the next lesson when you're doing your material. But weekly quizzes are once a week, and you must do 75% of them for DP. That's for your DP requirement, but 100% is what you're going for. When is our first tutorial? So your first tutorial is being released tomorrow. It's a digital type. You will have seen that the tutorial questions, there were questions 1 and 3 released. So there will be another question released, question 3, and that's what your tutorial will be on. And Jimmy, who did the lessons for this week, he will be the one that will be presenting the digital type, which comes out tomorrow at 10. Do we use the same textbook for business accounting? No. So for business accounting, there is a different textbook that is used. I think, okay, I have it at my house. I'm actually not at my house. I'm at my my in-laws' house because I've got 2 little kids at home. So I didn't want them to just barge in on the live stream. But I'm going to try and find, well, in the next session, then I'll try and bring the book with me to show you what that book would look like. Will the quiz be released tomorrow? Yes. Do we pay for online PDF textbooks? If you're buying web versions of textbooks, yes, I would imagine you're paying for them. But for the ones where for the textbook that you're accessing through the library, that those licenses have been paid for by the library, so you don't need to worry about that. Our session is going to be on YouTube every week. So for this week, I'm doing YouTube because we're still trying to figure out the setup. We may move to Microsoft Teams. But for now, this is the easiest way for me to manage both presenting and the chats. On the Thursday, though, you'll get the link, and yeah, then you can view it accordingly. Has the time been set for the test on the 28th of April? Yes, the test is at 6 in the evening, 6 p.m. What is a digital TUT? It's basically just a TUT that you go through. You're going to have a question like you've been doing like you've had the question 1 and question 2. So it's basically where the lecturer or presenter is going to go through the question with you, and they're going to discuss the answers. To kind of help you through that. Okay. Okay. Ooh. Wait, my questions are getting. Okay. Do we need a financial calculator? No, not yet. I think you only need a financial account calculator from second year onwards. Okay, I get the required score for the knowledge check, but I still can't access lesson 8. Okay, so if you're having that problem, then you need to email help@vula.uct.ac.za. As a non-prior, how can we catch up with prior students in terms of terminologies, ideas, principles, etc.? Okay, I like this question. So I was a student. I was also a non-prior student. So I did accounting in grade 8 and grade 9, and then I left my accounting books behind and I kind of did other subjects. And then I came to UCT first year, and then I started accounting again. So there is a difference between prior and non-prior, because I will admit having prior knowledge does mean that you catch on to things really quickly, okay? And as a non-prior, I did find that I had to put in a bit more effort than my friend who had done accounting before. Having said that, though, we typically find that non-priors, once they get started, there's a learning curve they have to go through. So by week 3, we will be doing recording, where we introduce you to all the recording that prior students would have done in high school. So all your journals, your ledgers, doing a trial balance, doing an income statement, all those things. And by the time we get into week 4 onwards, then you would have caught up a lot of things already. And so, it should be fine. Okay, as long as you're just making sure that you're keeping up to date with the content, then you're going to be fine. Non-priors can do equally as well as priors on this course. So there's no rule that says, prior students outperform non-priors. Sometimes non-priors outperform prior students because they're learning things from scratch, and it means that if you don't have a base to reference, then it does become a bit easier, because some of the stuff that prior students learn in high school, we do it differently at university. So yeah, it's sometimes it is a benefit to be a non-prior. So there's pros and cons to being both prior and non-prior. But if you're non-prior, don't worry, you're going to be fine. Look, I was non-prior, and yeah, I'm the lecturer now. Okay, so Wednesday, yes, closing date for the quizzes. Should we focus more on the textbook content or lesson content? So you want to focus more on the lesson content, right? The lessons, that is your base. Okay, so that's the first thing you focus on. Then the readings that are given every week, those readings are meant to supplement, okay? So you're first focusing on the lessons, and then you're going to do those textbook readings, because it's to help you gain more understanding. So the two go together, but you kind of start off with the lessons and then you do the readings. Sometimes you might be eager and do the readings first. That's actually great, because then it means that when you do the lesson, you actually have some sort of understanding of what's being discussed. Okay. Can you retake weekly quizzes? No, you can't. So you only have one attempt at a weekly quiz, and then that gets marked, and that is the mark that you get for the week. Well, EDU. Okay, so I don't know about anything about EDU. The stream is actually mainstream students. So if you have any questions about EDU, you would need to direct that to the EDU. Okay. Okay, so question 1 and 2 at the end of the lessons is not the weekly quiz. No, question 1 and 2, those are practice questions. Those questions are typically from past exam papers or past test questions, and it's to help you practice what it would be like to write a test on those topics. Then the third question for the week would be that digital tutorial where the lecturer goes through a question with you. And the weekly quiz is something separate. The weekly quiz is just testing whether you've gotten the main concepts for that week. Okay. Is the TUT tomorrow for real marks? So the TUT doesn't count for marks because we don't mark any tutorials. So this digital TUT, you just have to watch it and actually do question 3. Watch it, mark it yourself, make sure you understand. Post questions in the forum if you don't understand so that we can try and assist you better, but it doesn't count for any marks. The only thing counting for marks in this course is your weekly quizzes, your test 1, test 2, and your exam. Okay. Question 3 for the TUT is going to be released tomorrow. The way the digital TUT for tomorrow is structured is that it's as you go through the question becomes available at 10, and then you're going to do a portion of it. Well, the digital TUT is going to direct you. So it's going to tell you, do this part, and then you'll do it, and then you'll watch the explanation. So all of that gets released tomorrow. Is this the mainstream live stream? Yes, it is. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to hang on to the questions for now. I'm going to get to more of them. I just need to speak about some other things. Okay, so class reps. So the Common Student Council has asked us to secure class reps for this course. So what a class rep basically does is a class rep is a liaison between the students and the lecturers effectively. So if you have any issues in the course, you maybe can raise it with your class rep, and then your class rep will take everything to the lecturer. The class rep also serves on the class rep will serve on they serve as part of the CSC, and then you'll have to attend like an orientation and so forth. So what I would suggest is, if you're interested in being the class rep, please send me an email, and then if we have more than one person interested, then we're going to have a vote to see who gets voted class rep. So you can email me on my email address, which is on Vula. Okay. What's next? Okay, so for today, I wanted to talk about something interesting in the accounting field. I've already discussed, okay, so I see here's a question, what's a digital TUT? I've already discussed it earlier in the live stream, so maybe just you'll have to probably go back and view that. How long is the quiz? The quiz is around 10 or 12 minutes, depending. Say between 10 and 15 minutes. It's not very long. Okay. So in 2015, something happened with the APC exam. Okay, so let me set the stage for you. So for those students that are studying that want to become chartered accountants, the route typically involves you doing a BCom or business science. Your BCom degree is 3 years, business science is 4 years. After you've done your undergrad degree, then you go on to do your postgraduate diploma in accounting. Once you do your postgraduate diploma, you then start 3 years of articles, and during your articles, you write your 2 board exams. After your 2 board exams, you can, and completion of your articles, you then register as a chartered accountant. Now, the APC exam is the second board exam, so it's kind of the last one you write before you go and before you get to call yourself a CA. So in 2015, what had happened was the way the exam is structured. So the SAICA, they set the exam and they changed the structure of the exam. So what happens is that you get a pre-release, which is typically 5 days before your exam is written. And so they send like a case study, and students, the candidates, they would work on the case study because they're trying to research the business effectively. And then you would build up a file of material that you take into the venue when you go and write. So on the day that you write, you actually get additional information on the business in the case study, and you get your questions. So what had happened this year was that students figured out that the business that was being examined was a private medical care company, like a hospital group, and it was very similar to an audit client that that some students were involved on. So what they did was they took material from the material from the audit files of these clients, which was confidential, and they distributed that material to a whole lot of people that are writing the exam. And they got into a lot of trouble because when this information surfaced, firstly, that is a huge conflict of interest effectively, because firstly, you've broken a whole lot of rules by doing that. Number one being the confidentiality of the client. So you're not allowed to take information of your client and distribute it to anybody that's not involved in the audit. And I'm going to post a link to an article on Vula. But this article was then released by SAICA. I thought it was just an interesting thing to share with you, where they basically talk about what happened. So there were 3 transgressions that SAICA then identified. So they said that the first transgression was extracting and distributing confidential information. And so there were 19 candidates that they found were guilty of this transgression. And 16 of those 19 candidates were given sanctions and a suspension, which means they couldn't apply to become CAs for between 3 and 12 months. They were also given fines of about between 2,500 and 50,000 rand. So that's quite serious, eh? The penalties that they got. 2 candidates took the issue to the High Court, and the one was successfully defended by SAICA, which means that SAICA won the court case, and the other candidate just withdrew. Then in the second transgression, they said that everybody that received the confidential information and distributed it further. So let's say somebody sent you confidential information from a client that you were not supposed to get, and you knew what it was and you sent it to someone else, then you were also guilty of an offense. And so they found 55 of the 72 candidates involved were guilty of negligence, and they fined them 20,000 rand for distributing this information. And they were also suspended for between 2 and 6 months. And then the third one was on candidates that just received the information. So it just landed up in their inbox. and they didn't do anything with it. 25 of those candidates were just given warnings, and the rest of those candidates were found to have done nothing wrong, because you can't control, of course, what lands into your inbox. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because this is quite, this was a big sort of scandal that happened in the sort of accounting profession, and it's linked to students, actually, because these are technically students because they're still writing their board exams. And I think I wanted to raise it with you so you can be aware of these issues, because for me, when I reflected on this, I think a lot of people didn't realize the impact, of taking confidential information and sharing it, because I think today we live in a sort of in an environment where we kind of think we can just share everything, with our friends, and we get resources and materials and we just share it with our friends because they're also studying with us. But I really want you to be wary and cautious of the things that you do share, because there could be consequences. You could be sharing something that has copyright attached to it, or there could be other issues around that. So be careful, be wary of stuff like this. I'm just warning you, because I don't want any of you to get into trouble for any of these sorts of things. So I'm gonna share that article. I'm gonna post the link, and I'd like you to read that, just for the sake of knowing. Oh, sorry, the dog is going on in the background because there's another dog walking past. Oh, what can you do? So it says, what will happen to Muslim students that will be fasting? With the fast, typically what happens is that we would have different slots to either have Muslim students write earlier, but that information will be communicated closer to the time. So the test is only on the 28th of April. We'll send out more information closer to the time. How long will it be? It's about an hour and a half. Yeah, it's about an hour and a half. Are we having live sessions on Thursdays and digital tuts on Fridays at 10? Okay, so live sessions, yes, on Thursdays at 2. This is just to accommodate students who have to go to mosque on Friday. So I don't want them to be kind of excluded from the opportunity of attending. The digital tuts are released on Friday, so you won't need to log on to anything to watch anything live. It's going to be pre-recorded, so you can do the digital tut over the weekend if you wanted to. But you probably want to do it on Friday because you don't want to sit on the weekend doing work. Well, having the 4th edition text would be okay, or is there a big difference? I don't know, I don't have a copy of the 4th edition. I'm trying to think. So, okay, let's in this book, and I can tell you what would have changed. Okay, so if I look at the contents, okay, so the conceptual framework, that has changed. So that's a big change. That entire chapter would be outdated. Inventory adjustments, VAT, bank recons, trade payables, those things haven't really changed. So I think if you're using the textbook for those sections, then it should be fine. But there may be small changes here or there. I suppose just be guided by what you see in the lessons, because that would ultimately give you a sense of what it is you should be doing. Cool. Do we have other resources we can access to practice besides the textbook? Okay, yes. So like I said, there's the extra resources videos I'm posting. There's additional readings, but the readings are just for enrichment. Then before the test, I want to have a workshop. So the workshop, typically before a test, we give you access to past test papers to help you prepare for the test. So with the workshop, what I'd like to do a live session. Maybe we can have one like this again, where I'll give you access to an exam paper beforehand, and we can work through a question together. We can work through it together just to help you with your exam technique. I'll be sharing some exam technique tips, like what you should be doing when you're writing, how to best write an accounting test. Also covering some of the theory. I hope that will be useful then. So I'm going to make sure that I schedule that. The test is on the 28th of April. So I'll probably work a week before to try and schedule it thereabouts. Okay, so it gives you time to work through all the content, but also have enough knowledge to look at the test yourself, and then we can work through something together. We will pray for you when it was. Thank you. What's the difference between TUTs and quizzes? Okay, so TUTs are questions, right? These are based on past exam questions, past test questions, and they're practice questions for you to get comfortable with the material and to help you in your preparation for exams and so forth. Then, sorry, I think I've got a. Okay, then quizzes, those are little assessments that we basically do to make sure that you are keeping up to date with the work. So those are the purpose of quizzes, and the weekly quizzes, of course, count towards your grades. Okay, when is tomorrow's TUT due? Okay, so the TUT isn't due. Okay? The TUT is not due. The TUT, you will get access to the TUT at 10 o'clock. You will work through the TUT in your own time. It is not due. You're not submitting it anyway. So I think this question maybe comes from people hearing about what it used to be like when we had face-to-face, because what would have happened is you would have done the TUT and handed it in, and then your tutor would have given it back to you when you go to your tutorial, okay? Because then we tick off to see that you've actually done the TUTs. But you don't have to hand it in because we don't have those capabilities in this online setting. Okay. The weekly quizzes are weekly, and they're on a Friday. When will we meet our tutors? Okay, so you don't have tutors. In this course, we don't have tutors. In the mainstream course, there are no tutors. Your tutors will be the lecturers, and they will go through the weekly the questions, the digital type with you every week. And if you have any questions, the questions you can post in the forum. So the lecturer for the week will monitor the forum. I'll monitor the forum, the teaching assistant. So any questions will get posted there. So we all act as your tutor effectively. Okay, for the knowledge checks, if we miss a certain letter in a word, it gets marked wrong for that. I want to ask if okay, so with the weekly quizzes, the marking, we try to accommodate as best as possible the possibility that somebody may have misspelled something. We also do manual checks to check that the system hasn't marked something that should technically be right. So as much as possible, okay, hide. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So as much as possible, just make sure that you oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought there because I'm just reading these messages. I want to. Oh, sorry, I forgot what I was talking about. Sorry. Maybe somebody can just remind me. Okay, I'll talk about chartered accountant now. We've just got 10 minutes left in the stream. Sorry. Sorry, I lost my thought completely. So now I'm stuck there, but I'm gonna maybe go back to it and then I'll answer what I need to. Oh, sorry, it was the marking. So we do manual checks to try and see that the system hasn't marked something incorrect that is correct as much as possible, but just try and make sure that your spelling is up to scratch, at least the important accounting words. So make sure that you keep, that you could use spell check, because you should have maybe like a spell check on your computer or so, just to help you with that. Okay, but if that is becoming a problem for you, then send me an email and I'll see how we can best assist you. Okay. Chapter 1 of the textbook examinable as we haven't. Okay, so if we haven't told you, given you a reference to any of the chapters, then don't worry about it, right? Only read what we tell you to read. If we haven't told you to read it, then don't read it. If you want to read it for fun, by all means, but it's not examinable. Okay. Okay, so the process of becoming a chartered accountant, let me just revise that, because this is where a lot of people get confused. And so I just think I need to just drive this point home again, because students get confused between doing a BCom financial accounting versus business science finance with accounting. Now, when you do a BCom, your BCom accounting is a 3-year degree, okay? If you're doing it mainstream, it's 3 years. If you're doing business science finance with accounting, you're doing your degree over 4 years, right? So in 4 years' time, you graduate, whereas with BCom in 3 years' time, you graduate. But irrespective of whether you've done the 3-year or the 4-year undergrad degree, both of those have to do 1 year of PGDA. So that means in total, your full-time studying would be 4 years if you've done the BCom and the PGDA, or 5 years if you've done business science and 1 year PGDA. And then after your full-time study, you do 3 years of articles, and that's the same for both. And you do 2 board exams, and that's the same for both. So that's how you become a CA. So the quickest way to become a CA is to do BCom, because that will take you 7 years. And to become a CA via the business science route, the least amount of time it's going to take you to do that would be 8 years. Okay, I hope that answers your questions. Will you need our student cards to write the in-person test? Yes, because your student cards serve as identification. So when you're writing the test, we would need to check that your student card agrees to the face, agrees to what you've written, so we can make sure that it is you writing and you haven't just sent someone else in on your behalf. Okay. Do we get to review our weekly quizzes? Yes, you have any quiz that you submit, you have access to it after a submission, so you can review it. Yeah, and you'll see what you've gotten right or wrong. Yes, the test is 6 p.m. on the 28th of April. More details will be posted closer to the time. Okay, what, in your opinion, is a section in this course that students have most difficulty with? Okay, what's the most difficult thing? Okay, the most difficult thing in this course, I think, is, so when we get to week 4 and 5, we start with a conceptual framework. That can be quite tricky, because in the conceptual framework, we start talking about asset definitions and liability definitions. Now, if you've done accounting at school, you're familiar with what assets are and what liabilities are. But there are specific definitions in accounting and and specific ways in which we apply those definitions. So the conceptual frameworks tends to be a bit tricky. Then after that, we'll move on to inventory. Inventory is the first time you would then see a proper asset where we're looking at the life cycle of an asset. So that can be tricky. The trickiest thing, I think, for students is when we get to adjustments. So adjustments it can be extremely confusing. The reason why adjustments is confusing is because what you're trying to do with adjustments is you're saying that the bookkeeper, so remember that if you have a bookkeeper is different to an accountant, because a bookkeeper would record transactions, whereas an accountant would prepare financial statements. So in adjustments, what you're doing is you're saying the bookkeeper has done certain things, and so I need to, and what they've done is perhaps incorrect, I need to go and correct it, and that's why we have adjustments. Or there's certain transactions that the bookkeeper hasn't processed and you need to go and adjust for that. And I find that conceptually students struggle with that the most. So hopefully, okay, we're going to go through everything nicely this year. So I'm putting it on your radar when you get there. Okay, things are going to get tricky there, so make sure that you do all the readings and stuff like that to help out. Okay, are the exemptions? I don't know what you mean by exemptions. So maybe just clarify that question. When will the additional readings and stuff and extra resources will be available tomorrow for the latest? I still need to finish that Vula tab. Weekly quizzes are not the same as the tutorial. The digital TUT is pre-recorded, working through a past question. Weekly quizzes are graded. Okay, if one took accounting with law in first year, then would it be possible to change to the CA route for second year? Yes, because you would have done most of the subjects in your first year are common across the two. So I think, it's definitely possible because you would have done financial reporting 1 in first year, so then you can move into financial reporting 2 in the second year. No one will struggle this year. We got Mr. Jimmy good. I'll give him that feedback. Which is better, doing a BCom or business science if you would like to become a chartered accountant? Okay, so it really depends. I did a BCom. And if I look at myself and somebody that has done business science, I mean, I have colleagues that have done business science, colleagues that have done BCom. By the time you're a CA, it doesn't really matter. Because most of your work experience is going to be driven by by the opportunities you decide to expose yourself to when you go working. I think if you do business science, you have the benefit of having more knowledge, more specialist finance knowledge. So people who do business science typically tend to do CFA as well, or they get involved in financial services, that sort of thing. But one isn't necessarily better than the other, I would say. One is quicker than the other. And so for me, getting there quicker was definitely the better option. But if you have an interest in doing finance, but you don't want to go the business science route, that option is still actually open to you, because there's nothing that restricts you once you've completed your articles. Once you complete your articles and you become a CA, you really can do anything. So I am a CA, but I don't work out in practice. I mean, I used to be an audit and technical manager when I was working for a Big Four firm before I came to UCT. So yeah, and now I'm a lecturer and that's what I do. So I have friends that are working in commerce. They are working as consultants. So there's a whole lot of things you can do. CA is just a qualification. I hope that helps. What is the difference between completing a PGDA and completing an honors degree after BCom? So a PGDA, you must complete that to be able to do your board exams. So the postgraduate diploma in accounting. Now at UCT, we do give you the option of doing BCom honors, but you would do your honors with your PGDA. So you're registering for both honors and PGDA, and you're doing it at the same time. Because the only difference with the honors is that you would write a research paper as well. But you need to do PGDA if you want to do the board exams. Okay. Is CTA the same as PGDA? Yes, it's the same thing. It's just called different things. Okay. Okay, I think once we have access to the quiz, we have until Wednesday to complete it, right? Yes, you have till Wednesday. But the quiz, once the quiz gets released, the due date, it will show the due date over there. So in your test and quizzes, which is going to be on the FA Assessments Vula site, okay, so make sure you have access to FA Assessments. It will give you due dates. And when it gets posted, there will be an announcement to that effect. Is it possible to switch to EDU next year? I think you can actually still switch to EDU this year. It's probably best to switch to EDU this year if that's something you want to do. Okay. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of the live stream. I've tried to answer as much questions as possible. If I haven't managed to get your questions, please post them in the forums, because I'm going to be checking that after this as well. So I'll be in the forum answering questions there as well. So I will see you next week, Thursday, for our next live stream session. It was great hanging out with you and chatting with you. And yeah, have a good week further. And well done, I think, for getting through your first week of university. It's really, really exciting. The week, I mean, the years ahead are going to be very, very exciting. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I see there's a question on forensic accounting. Forensic accounting, you don't get taught it at varsity per se. You do forensic accounting when you go and work in the working world. Yeah, but if you become a CA, you can do forensic accounting. The quiz is not 1 hour. It's like no longer than 15 minutes, I think. Okay, so bye, everyone. It was great hanging out with you, and I'll see you in the pep talks and stuff. I still got to do those videos, but I'll see you in those videos. Definitely we'll chat next week in next week's live streams. Okay, bye-bye.